The NFL trade deadline is in the books. We're going to talk about that and much more coming up on today's Outside the Trenches.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Into this week's edition of Outside the Trenches, presented by our friends at Five Farms Irish Cream Liqueur. Nick, if you guys aren't watching live, number one, you should be. Appreciate everybody watching us live. Nick decided while we were going live just to go ahead and change his camera around. I appreciate that, Nick. We missed you last week. How were you?
I'm good. I was good. I was in Chicago for doing some training stuff for work, and I'm good. It's good to be back on. I missed you guys that Wednesday night. I was at a dinner. And I was like, wonder what they're talking about this week. I wonder what the Blind Nil was.
That's
while you're eating steak, huh? You were that interested while you're eating steak. I get it. Free steak at that.
It was when I was waiting for the steak. When I was eating steak, I didn't think about you.
Gotcha. I figured as much.
Big B, how are you? How are you doing? Everything?
I am on pins and needles right now. These Rangers are about ready to win this World Series, it looks like. And I have made a promise that I'm going to go burn a couch out in my driveway.
Nice.
So, now here's the thing. I don't have like a free couch, like some old college couch or anything like that. So the only one I got's in the living room. So I'm guessing if I do that, my wife's going to make me sleep on that. So, but I'm willing to take the chance. Now,
here's the loophole. You didn't say your couch. You said a couch.
Very true, but I'm trying not to be arrested. It's borderline anyway. If I burn a couch in my driveway, it's borderline if that happens. So I feel like if I do burn somebody else's couch, then I'm definitely getting arrested.
Is that in honor of Mattress Mac with the Astros beating the Rangers beating the Astros too?
No, I don't. That guy, he's bad luck. He's bad luck. At least for Dallas fans, he's been bad luck this year. So,
is he like what's her face? Is it Carrie Underwood or Jessica Simpson? Who was the one who's dating Romo?
Jessica Simpson. Yeah, So we are. We're. I think they're ahead. So. Here's the thing. Another thing is if they happen to win, you're going to know it because you're going to hear it because everybody's going to be shooting guns off. You're 100% going to be able to hear it. So,
well, that's good. That's why we schedule a recording of a podcast. Now this is the NFL podcast, so we're not worried about the World Series. I'm pulling it up right now because last time I saw there was a no-hit bid. I don't think there's a no-hit bid anymore.
No, the Rangers scored. The Rangers took the lead.
Okay, well there goes the no-hit bid. They're at 1-0 is what I'm seeing right now. I think
we should have done this from Texas Live, right? Isn't that the venue?
Oh yeah,
Arlington or whatever it is. I don't know where it is. I'm from there. I have no clue.
It's in Arlington. It's right next to all the stadiums and all that stuff over there. It's crazy. It's a good time though. It's a good time.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, there's some of those live blocks like everywhere. It seems like there's one in St. Louis, there's one in Kansas City. I think there's one in Baltimore.
Yep.
They're all over the place. But I enjoy the St. Louis one that I went to a few months or so ago. But as I mentioned at the top, NFL trade deadline in the books. I don't know if there was a lot of movement that we anticipated. Maybe the guys that we thought were going to get moved got moved. Obviously the title of the show, we're going to be talking about AFC favorites. We're going to talk about some contenders, and in the AFC side of things, there are some teams are pretenders in that side of things as well. And we had some news in the AFC West as well as some coaching changes. Josh McDaniels, he gone. They're going to pay him to sit at home for the next 4 years. Bye-bye, told Josh McDaniels. GM Dave Ziegler also leaves as well with him out the door. I saw a tweet that Adam Schefter had put out about how many like New England Patriot Way type of people that were brought into the Raiders organization. Didn't work. So we can just say that right now. It did not work. But first, Big B, I want to get your thoughts on the NFL trade deadline. Some of the biggest names moved. 2 Washington guys, Chase Young, Montez Sweat. I feel like we talked about them last week about getting moved. Leonard Williams gets moved to Seattle. Ezra Cleveland goes from Minnesota to Jacksonville. They did need some help on that offensive line. But Chase Young goes to San Francisco for a 3rd-round pick. I believe it's a conditional 3rd-round pick, and Montez Sweat to Chicago. Thoughts on deadline day and the movement there?
Well, the first thing I'll start off with Chicago. I know we've talked about this a few times. That organization is a dumpster fire. What are you doing? Like you're trading for a guy unless they're going to pay Montez Sweat. Now, if they're going to pay him, okay, but that's usually not what Chicago does. He's in the last year in his deal. You're not competing. So what is the purpose of you trading for him? Oh, by the way, you let Roquan Smith, who's one of the 2-3 best linebackers in football, you let him walk because you didn't want to pay that guy. And then you sign a guy in the offseason to play his same position that's not as good. So that made a whole lot of and paid him a ton of money. That makes a whole lot of sense. And then they got a cornerback that they don't want to pay. I just don't know what they're doing. How does that even make sense? Washington apparently has given up. So I suspect that here in the next 2 weeks, Ron Rivera is out because he's literally waved the white flag. You just traded both of your defensive ends that you don't want to pay. So they're finished. I like the move from San Francisco.
Oh my God.
I mean, they got another pass rusher that they are going for it. And I like it. If you're going to go for it, you might as well go all in. I think they kind of know what they got in Brock Purdy now. Like we talked about, Nick and Tucker, you get a little game pressure on him, and he just flounders under that game pressure. So I think they're like, we got to create more opportunities for the offense, get some turnovers, getting Randy Gregory and getting Chase Young to go with Bosa, I think is great. So I think those two moves right there, again, the Chicago move, who knows? But it's clear that Washington's waved the white flag.
Yeah. I just can't believe how this feels like if I'm the commissioner and I'm running fantasy football versus like a bunch of 10-year-olds. And I'm like, hey, you want to trade this? Like, how the hell did San Francisco end up with this D-line? Like, I mean, we'll talk about like not even like land of the misfit toys, like land of the misfit all pros.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what is this defense like? I mean, you're like, okay, I hope we don't get in third in anything. I mean, because that's going to be over. I mean, you get that much depth, that much amazing depth at a defensive line to an already great defensive line, great defensive team. Oh my gosh, they're going to be winning games, 3-0. It's going to be, it's going to ride that Brock Purdy train, Mr. Irrelevant train, all the way to deep into playoffs for sure. I guess they're kind of preparing for that Eagles Philly NFC Championship game showdown. To really see who's got it. Which coast is the best.
It is going to be really interesting, and that kind of goes into, Nick. That's a good segue into just like the AFC contenders, because I think it's interesting when you look about it from a Chiefs perspective specifically. Listen, we've spent a lot of time after that Broncos game talking about the Chiefs' struggles at wide receiver. We've really been talking about the Chiefs' struggles at wide receiver all year, but it was more amplified after that game. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on, like, there's no real boogeyman, I think, for the Chiefs in the AFC when it comes to it. The Dolphins might be the one that's like, okay, you got to watch out for those guys, because the Chiefs haven't really played this iteration of the Dolphins until this weekend. But after that, I mean, it's the Bills, who the Chiefs know who the Bills are. The Chiefs know who the Bengals are. So after that, for the Chiefs specifically, it's like, okay, outside of that, it's the Ravens, Big B. That's probably the other one, right?
Yeah, I would say the Ravens look like they're playing pretty good football. Jacksonville is playing some decent football here lately.
Mm-hmm.
They struggled early, but they've gotten it together. The Bengals, I said it all along, they're going to start slow. I just think people got to watch for the Bengals. They are getting it together. People got to watch out for the Bengals, man. They're really good. They're on their way. It's going to be a tight race. There's really good teams in the AFC, so much more than the NFC.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, I just thought the Chiefs should have done something at the trade deadline to get another receiver. I just did. Look, we're all nice and we want everybody to be great. Sky Moore is just not going to be able to make things happen with the Chiefs. Unfortunately, that's just the truth. I think they should have went out and got somebody. But the problem is is that when you don't have the money and you spend money on some tackles that aren't very good, and let's just say they're not very good, that's where your issue is. You're paying some money to some guys that aren't doing what they need to be doing. Let's just say that. Maybe not say they're not very good. They're not playing up to their capabilities. And then you don't have money to go get people at other positions, and it's a problem.
I think the main thing with the Chiefs is that Mahomes has been bailing out his offensive line since the whole time. Like, he is one of the most underrated, slipperiest quarterbacks in the league, right? Where you think, oh, he's not that fast, but damn, he can scoot. His acceleration, we should call him the Tesla, the Texas Tech Tesla, because he's popped. Like, he just go, like, he gets out. And this game versus Denver, he really wasn't. He was hanging back there all the way back. It was the whole pocket was just getting destroyed. Yeah. So, I think the Denver game's an anomaly because you always got to look at the history. I think Denver always plays Chiefs tight, and it always takes like a defensive score to win for the Chiefs. So it was coming in the book. So we can't take a one-game measurement. New offensive coordinator, right? Didn't Biami just leave last year? So you got new offensive coordinator. You got a whole new wide receiver room outside. So you're trying to figure out who's who in the zoo, what's what, and you see glimpses on film, right? You see glimpses on film of what they can do on the film. Like, you see Rice with the burst. You get McCall Hardman back there. I think Sky Moore is going to do it. Give him time. I think coming out of college, he's a great route runner. He's got to figure out the system, figure out his game. But Chiefs are good at getting people back into the system quick, especially when they have drops and everything like that. So it's a long season, but now good football starts, right, fellas? November football.
Oh, yeah.
My ears are perked up now. Like, my ears are perked up now because now we're going to see who's a contender, who's a pretender.
That's what it's all about, and that's what I think is so interesting when it comes down the stretch to the AFC right here, because I do think the Ravens are an interesting team. They went out and they didn't quite make a move. They were trying to get Josh Jacobs, which I think could have made them a pretty interesting team when it comes down the stretch. I know, Big B, you and I talked about Derrick Henry going there. And it seems like that the Malik Willis games, not Malik Willis, sorry. The other guy, the Will Levis. Will Jeans Levis is what I call him because his name's spelled like Levi's. So I just call him Will Jeans. Will Jeans was dealing out there, man. Maybe they think, hey, maybe we got something here with Levis. We can kind of ride this a little bit, get Derrick Henry going. Maybe that'll help him a little bit. But you guys are talking about the offensive line for the Chiefs. I think it's really interesting because, like, optically, it looks like that these tackles. I mean, it was Donovan Smith, I believe, got a sack on Patrick Mahomes last week. Yeah. When Patrick Mahomes was spinning every which way and then ends up getting hit. I looked it up, and minimum of like 200 dropbacks, right? Patrick Mahomes has the fourth longest time to throw, 3.03 seconds. So he's getting a lot of time back there in the pocket.
It's misleading though, because he moves around. He moves around to give himself time.
He is. That is in the pocket as well. That's not necessarily just as a whole. But if you watch it, there's a couple plays there from the game against the Broncos that are worrisome to me. There's one play, I think it's like the first third down of the game that the Chiefs have. And Patrick Mahomes scrambles around, rolls around. The play lasts like 12 seconds long, and nobody can get open. And Patrick Mahomes just then has to throw it away. He's got two guys barreling down on him. He's just got to dish it out of bounds. And then a lot of people will like to point out that, oh, hey, Jerick McKinnon was getting open right here. Like, well, yeah, well, he was. You're right. But he had two guys in his face, and he had already been holding on to the ball for 12 seconds. He's got to dish it away. I think that's what's been kind of frustrating is and we've talked about it a lot on here, but I don't think that their struggles are necessarily uncommon in the NFL when it comes to that as well. I do think a lot of it comes to as well. They just played the Broncos like 15 minutes before that game. They just played them. Like that is not an easy thing to do. And that is one thing, like when I saw the schedule come out, I was like, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for the Chiefs, for the Broncos, for both those teams to play each other twice in 3 weeks. It ended up being like twice in like less than 2 weeks because they played a Thursday night game and then a Sunday, then a Sunday. But it was it was one of those things where it was like, okay, it feels like the streak would end. If the streak is going to end 1 year, it'd be this year because you got to play them twice in 3 weeks. I think that kind of played into it as well. But it seems like all of these, Big B, as you mentioned, all of these teams have struggled in the AFC. Like the Bengals, it seems like with Joe Burrow, they have to start really slow with Joe Burrow. They have to lose like 3 of their first 4 games. They have to look absolutely dreadful, and then they'll turn it on. Then they'll beat the 49ers, and then they got the Bills coming up, a pretty big game on this Sunday that I think a lot of Kansas City will have their eyes on. They can watch that early Germany game, take a nap, wake up, perfect timing for the Sunday night football game, which will be a good one as well. But those are probably the Chiefs' 2 biggest threats in the AFC. Outside of like the Ravens, I'm curious to see how that works down the stretch. Lamar's got to stay healthy. No reason to think that, he won't. But Nick, as you mentioned, the NFC is it's the Eagles, it's the Niners. The Niners have started to kind of stumble a little bit. We know that the 2 scary teams, the 2 boogeymen for the Chiefs are going to be in the NFC. I don't think they got anybody in their own division to kind of be not in their division and in their conference even to be too scared of.
I'd say the Bills. I'd say the Bills. Who'd they beat last year? Who the Chiefs beat last year in the playoffs? They
beat the Jaguars and the Bengals.
Right. So the Bengals had beat the Bills earlier, but I think if they got matched up versus the Bills, I think the Bills will have the Chiefs number in the playoffs. If they ever match up, I think that's a very scary thing. So I think you don't want to see Josh Allen motivated, quarterback Josh Allen motivated versus playoffs. I think that's the one matchup where I would be like, damn, this does not look good. Even in Arrowhead, like and then if they're in Buffalo, forget about it. I think there's be so many broken tables by Bills Mafia that they're gonna, will that to a win. That's what I think.
I mean, that's interesting. I like that take. The one part about that is what the Chiefs don't like to do is what the Bills struggle with. What the Chiefs don't always want to run the football. Well, the Bills are horrible at stopping the run. So it would be one of those things. Will Andy Reid just finally decide, you know what? We're going to run the football, but he never does. But that's the thing. I mean, the Bills can't stop. Matt Milano is out, and he's out for the year. And they cannot stop the run. They just can't. They weren't great while he was there. Now they're even worse. So it's just one of those things. Are you going to run the football to exploit what they literally can't do? And then on the other side of the ball, it's a different matchup because the Chiefs defense is really good. And Josh Allen has gotten into trouble trying to play hero ball and turning the football over. Will he decide, you know what? I don't have to play hero ball. I don't have to try to run through linebackers. I can just take what a defense gives me. I don't know that he's capable of doing that. We'll see. I would like to see the Chiefs play the Bills more than I do the Bengals. I don't want the Chiefs playing the Bengals. That's not a good matchup for them.
Yeah, and I think too. I think once he gets his what is his calf, Joe Burrow's calf.
Yeah,
is that what it is? Once that gets healthy too. Like I said, Frampton comes alive right now. When it gets super cold, when all the leaves are almost off the trees, that's what happens. And you're right. I don't like either of those teams, to be honest, but I like the Bills less. So I think we're in disagreement there. But if you look at like the Bills too, I mean, they've played some pretty not really good competition.
That's the thing.
I'm not looking at anybody. They played the Jets, the Raiders. No one. They really.
And they lost to the Jets. First game of the year.
Yeah, and they played Miami after Miami beat Denver 70-20. So that was so Bills really don't have a tough schedule outside of the November 5th and this Sunday night game coming up.
It's a big game. I mean, I think a lot of attention will be placed on it. I'm kind of surprised they didn't put that game later in the season, kind of like what they did with the Chiefs and the Bengals matchup, but I guess they didn't want to backload the Bengals schedule, right? It would make sense, though, for that game to be a little bit later because it's almost surely going to have playoff implications to it in terms of seeding, whether if it's the 1 seed or if it's the 2 for the 3 seed. I think a lot of the big implications too last year in the whole matchup between those two. Obviously, an unfortunate the DeMar Hamlin event happened during that game, but there was a big implications for not only the 1 seed but like the 2 and the 3 as well. Like how that would shake out with just like head-to-head meetings and everything like that. So the AFC is seemingly a little bit more wide open than the last time we talked Big B, because it felt like, okay, the Chiefs got themselves a 2-game lead. They go to play the Broncos, then they got the Dolphins and Germany. Then they can really be a 4-game swing at that point if you get the head-to-head on the Dolphins. That game looks a little bit more important coming up in Germany here. And think about that. Think about that scheduling for Germany and the NFL to have what could be the de facto game for the 1 seed in Frankfurt. That's gonna be the best overseas game like ever, right?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I heard it on First Take this morning, and I think those guys are right. This game should be in America. It should either be in Kansas City or it should be in Miami. I mean, I'm out on the Germany game. I'm out on the London games. They keep talking about, we're going to get a franchise in London. I mean, come on. Why? What's the point? What are we doing? I think the game needs to be here. That game in Arrowhead, Tyreek Hill coming back. How good would that have been? And then you could put that on. You could have put it on Monday Night Football if you wanted to. If they're thinking correctly, why not do that? But I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, and y'all can tell me I'm wrong. But I think that game should have been here in America.
What is a worse product than Thursday Night Football?
Whew. Nothing right now. These games now. This Thursday, God's team will be playing, so that's different. That's different. This Thursday, it's going to be different. But for the most part, these games have been awful. They have been awful.
How much Thursday Night Football have you guys watched this season?
I've watched. I can't get through them. I can't get through them. And for me, I love football. And if I can't get through the game, then it has to be a horrible product.
What about how much of those Sunday morning European games have you watched?
Very few. Okay. Very few.
So if you're the NFL and if you're looking at TV ratings pays the bills, what would you want for everyone to be tuned in 8:30 Sunday morning?
I don't know. I mean, it would have to be my game. Yeah.
A game like such as this.
I guess.
Right?
I guess you're right.
A neutral site, right? 2 AFC teams in a neutral site, which you really can't take much stock out of this because sometimes you travel well and play great, sometimes you don't over there. I mean, you're flying across the pond. That's plus 6 hours of time zone difference. 5 if you're Miami. So it's like more. Like it means more. It's going to be a better product. So I think it's a good matchup for the NFL execs. Yeah. It is. But you're right. I'm with you. All the storylines would have been cool. Tyreek Hill coming back,
especially because I think it's a home game for the Chiefs. Technically, they're the home team on the scoreboard. So having that game in Arrowhead is a tough one. They chose to protect because I think the way that the scheduling works, you can protect like 3 games or something like that, in terms of it, and they chose to protect the Bears game instead, because the Bears fans travel well and they could make more money that way. They wanted to protect that game instead of Tyreek Hill's return to Arrowhead.
I think the NFL was like, hey, we're going to shut this down. We're not going to have the Chicago, Kansas City over there. That would have been a terrible draw.
That would have been awful.
That would have been a terrible draw. That would have been worse than the stands at a KU game.
Brutal. KU.
On that note, let's take a break. And when we get back from break, we will talk a little bit more about what's going on in the league, maybe some hot seats, some coaches that could be on the hot seat and what's going on coming up in week, 9 already? Crazy. We'll be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
That's Nick Leckey. That's Brien Hanely. I'm Tucker Franklin hanging out with you here. Appreciate you watching live at the time. If you're not watching live and listening after the fact, we appreciate you as well. But you can join us always Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central Time. 9 p.m. Arrowhead time. We go live on the KCSN YouTube channel, hang out, and talk some ball. We're talking ball here. As I did mention at the top of the show that we had some a coaching change, a personnel change, because it's a coach and a GM getting fired from the Las Vegas Raiders, as Josh McDaniels signed a 6-year deal last year with, I guess, 2 off seasons ago with the Raiders to come and be their head coach. I believe he becomes the first coach in NFL history to be fired before his second year is done as a head coach. That's not good. And I don't know what could have gone worse for the Raiders. They were really hyped on getting Devontae Adams with Derek Carr and getting Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler in there as GM. They were going to redo the whole Raiders franchise, and it didn't work. It just did not work. Big B, thoughts on a late news break, by the way. I don't know if you were up for this. I was like getting ready for, like, I was putting my phone on the charger when I saw this one come out to go to sleep. But it was like midnight Central time. Yep. Adam Schefter tweeted like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the Raiders are firing their GM and their head coach."
The thing about it is that it all stems from you trusted this guy, you bring in this GM to a playoff team. That's what you people got to remember.
That's right.
They made the playoffs, but the year before they got there. So they weren't an awful football team. They were not. And then you go from that. They for whatever reason, look, you can talk about Derek Carr all you want. And he's not having a great year in New Orleans, but he is absolutely better than what's going on in Vegas.
Yes.
And they chose the wrong quarterback. Not to mention you chose a guy that's always hurt. I mean, and not just, okay, he got hurt 1 or 2 years. Every year he's been in San Francisco, he was hurt. The opportunity he got in New England, he got hurt. So the guy is always hurt. You chose that because of familiarity with him, and it just didn't work. It blew up in your face. You can't find ways to get – and I still think Devontae Adams is the best receiver in football. Yeah. You still can't find ways to get him the ball. Come on, man. You can't find ways to get Hunter Renfrow the ball. I mean, 2 years ago, the guy's catching 100 passes.
Right.
And combined on Sunday, they had 2 catches. It's just unbelievable what is going on there. But you know what? If you come in and you make those kinds of decisions and they don't work out, this is what happens.
Yeah, I think letting Carr go, I think he was that glue. He was that fixture in Vegas where, you know, the Timbers look up to him. And when you get rid of a quarterback like that, who's a good guy, you know, never threw anybody under the bus, always a team player, you know, solid guy who you want at quarterback. And for them to just let him walk, I think that really throws dysfunction into that whole locker room. Like, it's like, damn, I don't know who to trust. And let's not forget about, I mean, Hunter Renfrow is the man, Devontae Adams is the man. But, man, you know me, I love Darren Waller.
Oh,
I mean, you had he's one of the best tight ends and the most underrated tight ends. I mean, he goes from one crappy offense to an even crappier offense in the Giants, right? And he's getting taxed more, right? So I don't know who did the math for him, but yeah, I think losing Darren Waller, you know, or letting him walk in free agency was a bad move. So, I mean, think about how good this team would be if you kept Carr and you kept Darren Waller. I mean, the Raiders would be like really good. Like, I think they'd be really good. I mean, a lot better than what they are now, which is not saying much.
I just don't understand what the logic, Nick, behind all of that was. I just didn't understand what they were doing. Like, why do you trade Darren Waller? What are you getting out of this? He's on your team. He's good. Why won't you use Devontae Adams? Why won't you use Hunter? Why won't you use these guys? Not to mention, you had the best running back in football. If you didn't want to bring him back, I mean, the guy led the league in rushing. I'm not necessarily saying he's the best in the league, but he did lead the league in rushing. And if you don't want to bring him back and you sign him to a deal, I get all the dynamics with the money with running backs. Okay, but Jiminy Christmas, what are you doing? They destroyed. I mean, they're set back 3 or 4 years. They just are. They have no quarterback for the future.
I think that's interesting too, because even the news came out on Wednesday morning that they're going to bench Jimmy Garoppolo too. Like, they're not
immediately. That's right.
They're playing Aiden O'Connell the rest of the year.
Yep.
Jimmy G, so he doesn't hit those like escalators playing. So it's going to be one of those things where they're now in money saving mode because now they have to pay out the rest of Josh McDaniels' contract. And I remember at the end of last year, they were talking about, hey, Josh, you know, we want to fire you, but we don't have enough money to fire you.
Yeah.
Is what they were kind of talking about. So I don't know how good that is for anyone's just like as a human, just being like, oh, these guys don't want me here and they want to pay me to get out of here, but they don't have enough money to pay me to get out of here.
Yeah.
So I have to wait until they do have enough money to pay me to sit at home. That's tough. And I can't imagine. He did a really good job though once he figured out that, oh, hey, they don't want me here. I'm going to destroy this whole team. He did a really good job of that. He did a fantastic job. So kudos to him.
That's the only explanation that can make all these offseason moves make sense. Like, that's the only explanation. He goes, ha, 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 you want to fire me? I'm going to leave my mark. But like in a petty ex-girlfriend kind of way where like I'm going to key your car at night if I see it out and about, like type thing. And then let you see it in the morning. That's exactly what it is. That's the equivalent. That's the NFL coaching equivalent of ex-girlfriend keying your car.
That's funny. That's funny, Nick. That's
right? Because you can't explain like what he did. Like when you lined it out there, right? The Jimmy G thing, Mr. Glass, getting rid of your best player, breaking apart the glue that held everything together. He got benched 2 years ago.
Yeah, at the end of the year, last year, they shut him down. I just don't. There's no explanation for what they did. There's literally no explanation because they came into a playoff team. That's what everybody seems to forget. They were a playoff team when they got the job, and they have single-handedly just destroyed it.
A playoff team that was incredibly close to beating the Cincinnati Bengals in a playoff game.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yes, they were.
They probably should have beat the Bengals in that playoff game.
Yep.
And now they are where they are right here. And speaking of Darren Waller, he gets a hamstring injury, going to be out for a few games now. So that's just like,
he don't want no part of that shit show.
Oh, it makes sense.
Giants are awful. Yeah.
They're bad. I do think it's interesting though. The NFL has flexing capabilities for these games.
Is it starting now? Is this the first?
But they're not doing it. They didn't do it.
Yes, this is the first week they can flex, and they have chosen for the Week 10 Sunday Night Football game between the Jets and the Raiders to stay in the Sunday Night Football slot.
Why? Are they trying? Is Mark Davis get more TV revenue to help pay those bills?
Probably needs it. He's got to stop giving $1 million to UNLV is what he's got to quit doing. He's got to quit giving money to UNLV because he needs every single dollar that he can get. But like, I think there's like in Week 10, I haven't looked ahead. That's the Chiefs bye week. I think there's like a pretty decent matchup in Week 10 too that could be flexed. But man, I don't know why the NFL has the ability to flex and then just doesn't do it.
It's New
York. Jets at Raiders Week 10.
Yeah. It's a New York.
That's going to get flexed out.
I didn't.
No, they didn't do it. They didn't do it.
Oh, they didn't do it. That's the one they didn't do.
Yep, that's the one they didn't do. Yeah, it's the only thing I can think of. Big market. It's New York. They want those dollars.
There's no dollars. They given up snap 3 of the season when Rodgers went down. I mean, that was a wrap on the Jets season.
They won 3 in a row. They're coming back. Everybody keeps saying they're coming back. They won 3 in a row. Their offense still looks absolutely pathetic, but hey, to me the Jets have no shot. But that's just me talking.
Niners Jags was the other one that people wanted to be flexed in there, which
should have been.
Good matchup. Pretty good cross conference matchup.
Jags aren't bad. The Jags aren't bad.
No, their win. The Jags keep winning and making the Chiefs win over the Jaguars look better. Mm-hmm. And I remember we kind of started the season after that win, and I was like, "Are the Jags actually that good?" I was watching that game, and like, "Ugh, I don't know about the Jags. Are they actually that good?" Yeah, it turns out the Chiefs defense is pretty good. And that's made them look a little bit better. Lions have kind of helped that a little bit too, making that loss look better. Would really appreciate if the Broncos would win a few games and make the loss look not as bad. But I think that we can, if we put our heads to it, we can really get that one as a good loss. But anyway, let's get into Blind Nil, fellas. As we get in here, we divulge into the best segment, the brainchild of Nick Leckey. when it comes to this podcast. We each have a topic. We don't know what the other one is going to talk about. We also don't know who's going to go first either. That's also a thing. We just don't know anything that's about to happen for the next, let's say, 25, 30 minutes of this podcast. We do not know what is going to happen. It can get off the rails. But you know what? I'll go first because I actually have one this week, and I don't have to think of one mid-segment. I want to know.
I can always tell we don't have one, Tucker, by the way, too.
Oh yeah. I'm like, hey, Nick, you want to go first real quick? And then I just start jotting stuff down. You see me frantically typing off on my other screen over here. Like, crap. But I do have one this week. I actually have two written down, so it looks like I've got one for next week as well.
Nice.
Good news. I want to know your guys' favorite story from football this year. Not necessarily like it can be any, it can be NFL, it can be college, I don't care. But your favorite story from the football season of 2023, when you think back on this year, you'll be like, yeah, 2023, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's when this happened.
You know, it just happened the other day for me so far. Now, there could be some other storylines and things that happened, but this whole Michigan cheating scandal I think is incredible. First off, I thought, you know what? It's not this big elaborate thing when all you need is a credit card and a cell phone. And I can buy some tickets for some guys to go to a game and forward it to them. No big deal. But when the other day, when they showed this guy that's on Central Michigan's sideline in a fake mustache that's going over his goatee, and he's standing on the sideline with a clipboard, I'm like, okay, this is incredible. I mean, they've gone next level cheating. I mean, next level cheating. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Nick, do you know much about this?
I know that Michigan's in hot water for cheating, and they haven't re-upped Harbaugh yet because of it also. So is it as bad as like Inspector Gadget, like you say? Like,
it got worse, Nick.
Yeah.
It got worse.
Yeah.
I haven't kept tabs on it at all.
See, at first it was, okay, this guy that was on their staff, he hired some guys to go to games. Like, he hired a guy to go to Ohio State, and people, like 2 or 3 people, would go to the game and film the sidelines to get their signals. Okay. Which technically it's against the rules, number one, to be able to do it.
Right.
But I didn't think that was that big a deal, because if I go to a game, I can record with my cell phone. It's not that big a deal. It is what it is, you know? So I didn't think that was that big of a deal. Although people, it's cheating. And so I'm like, everybody's cheating. I go, and again, that wasn't a big elaborate plan when all I need is a credit card and a cell phone. You know, that's not rocket science. But this guy was literally on the sideline of Central Michigan recording Michigan. They were playing Michigan State, getting their signals. Not in the stands, Nick. Not up in the booth somewhere. He is on Central Michigan's sideline in the skies. I'm like, this is insane. They've got pictures of the guy, and the Central Michigan coach has come out. Yeah, I have no idea what he was doing there. He absolutely shouldn't have been there, which I also have questions about that. Like, how the hell does this guy get on the sidelines of your football team at a home game of yours? How the hell does that happen? But whatever. But man, it is just incredible. Just incredible.
It is.
It
is incredible. And I guess so. This guy was using like his own personal like credit card too, and like his own name for the tickets and transferring them under his own name. And it just, he was buying tickets for games that like potential games that Michigan would play. There's even some Tennessee games or some Georgia games in there too, as Tennessee was making a run to the college football playoff. He was trying to get an advanced scout on them, trying to get an advanced scout on Georgia. And there's even links with him sharing some of these signs, this information with teams like South Carolina who were playing Tennessee. And if you remember last year, South Carolina kind of put a beat down to Tennessee. Might have been because they had some connection. Allegedly, producer Nick points out in the chat, we should be saying allegedly, because they have allegedly done this. I don't know. It's so wild that he was trying to knock out like Tennessee out of their path. He was trying to knock different teams out. So he was sharing these signals that he's collected in this 600-page Word document that he updated daily, and he called it the Michigan Manifesto. By the way, if you're using Manifesto on a title,
yeah,
don't do that.
Instant TSA check.
You're
getting random. You're getting random at security, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as Big B mentioned, it kind of went to another level because, like, I think almost all teams try to steal signs, right? Just with the way college football is. I think Matt Rule, that's not his name, is it?
Yeah,
Matt Rule.
In Nebraska.
Okay. Yeah. I said his name. I said Matt, and I was like, that doesn't feel right. But anyway, he came out and said, like, yeah, we wouldn't have this problem if we could use like microphones and speakers in the head and the helmets.
Yeah,
like if we could use that, like this wouldn't be a problem at all. And I think he makes an incredibly good point. They can use technology on the sidelines in the NFL. They can use it in high school. Can't use it in college. That seems archaic almost, but they wouldn't have that problem. I think all teams try to steal signs. I just think that I think it's more funny than anything. Like, I think it's hilarious. It just shows like college football is just the best sport ever, just in terms of just like everything that goes on with college football and around college football. Like the Cure Bowl is now the Avocados from Mexico Cure Bowl. I don't know if you guys saw this, and it's going to be played not in Mexico, but Orlando, Florida. So close enough.
Because there's no avocados in Florida, I'm assuming, right? It's
must not be.
Not even in Texas. I mean, you could change the avocados from Mexico, Utah, El Paso, Sun Bowl.
Right, you go to you play like UTEP. You play in El Paso, and you could do the avocados from Mexico. I'm sure they play a bowl game.
San Diego. They don't have a stadium anymore, though. You could play in Aztecs, where the Aztecs are the UC San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah.
RFP Qualcomm.
RFP, good stadium. College football is just insane. Big B, I love like that story. That story is incredible.
Yeah, I like that.
Truthfully, I don't know if there will be one that tops it.
No, I don't think so. I think to me the biggest thing to me will be Achilles injuries today. You know, you got who was it? Cousins just went down.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers I mean, here's my thing. Could Aaron Rodgers come back this season? Is that what they're saying? Like, I mean, it'd be unheard of. He'd be more freaky than, T.O. or who was Oklahoma guy at Minnesota, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a crazy story to me to follow along Aaron Rodgers' rehab, just because that, or you look at Belichick. I look at Belichick, what are they going to do with Belichick, right? I mean, you're going to give him another chance for another quarterback? I mean, you fire this guy who did so much for you? Do you say, hey, what do you think? What do you want to do? What's your call? You can't ride with Mac Jones that much. I mean, he's shown what he can do, cannot do. So I think, I go with Belichick. I go, what the story to me is the most interesting is Belichick is the end of an era. Because I don't think the game passed him by, but I just don't think he's got a good system anymore. And I don't think he's got his quarterback that he likes that can, help him out, that he can, play jazz with, as they say.
Yeah.
That's very true. I like that, Nick, because it's not that the game has passed him by. It's not that the system has passed, or it's the system isn't working because he doesn't have a quarterback. If he had a quarterback, it would be fine. But because he doesn't, that's the reason that it's not working.
Yeah.
I like that.
Big B took mine. I was going to say Michigan, but I got the opportunity to talk about the Michigan cheating scandal. So that's I just wanted to create my own platform to talk about the Michigan cheating scandal is basically what it was. But who wants to go next?
Nick, you go next.
All right, cool. With it being the Rangers, I grew up in Grapevine, and World Series coming to an end, and it's always bugged me that the baseball playoffs are like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And NBA playoffs last for 6 months. Like, right. So it's always like, first of all, let's change that. But to me, I'm inspired. It's not even October anymore. It's November, but it's baseball playoff season. What's your guys' favorite baseball moment? Like, it doesn't have to be like a championship, but like, I can go with mine first to give you guys more time. But I remember as a kid, I was in Canada. I would spend this summers up in Canada. My parents were divorced, and it was like TSN was like the ESPN up there. It was like bootleg ESPN. And it was like, 8 o'clock at night, and the sports center of TSN is coming on, and the Rangers are playing the White Sox, and Nolan Ryan's pitching. And Nolan Ryan, that was inside hits Robin Ventura. And Robin Ventura, walks to take his base. He says, wait a minute, I'm going to beat this old man up. And I remember him charging, him taking charge. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Nolan Ryan's about to get beat up. And Nolan Ryan grabbed him and put him in a headlock and just started feeding him, like absolutely feeding him, just knuckles. Yes. And I was like, whoa. And that to me was like the baseball moment that sticks out in my life, that I'm like, damn, baseball players can go pretty tough sometimes.
Yeah, that was – I remember that just like it was yesterday. And it looked like Robin Ventura, when he ran out there, when he got about halfway, it looked like he's like, you know what? What am I doing? Yeah, this guy – and that was the thing. Nolan Ryan was a big man. Yeah. And I think once he got about halfway out there, I don't think he realized how big he was. And he came off that mound and gave him the business.
Just the business, the absolute business. Yeah. So that was, he did regret it. And I think part of it, he was like, I don't want to be at this old man. Like, this Correct. Is not, I don't want to be.
And then it made it worse because he got beat up by an old man.
It's a no-win situation. No-win
situation. It is a no-win situation. He didn't realize that. And that's what he's like, what am I doing? He's committed, though. He's spot committed. He's halfway out there. You can't turn around. Should have brought the bat, though.
Mine is 1993 World Series, the Joe Carter home run to win it. We were all hanging out. I know this is way before your time, Tucker, but I was a senior in high school, and we were hanging out at a party. And it's not many times at a high school party that people are watching the end of the World Series. Well, everybody was watching the end of this, and he hit that home run, and the whole house erupted. I thought it was going to cave in. That was crazy. But yeah, that's one of my best. And I didn't even I had nothing invested. Not a Toronto fan, not a Phillies fan. I mean, but it was just a great baseball moment for me. I mean, I could go back to my Mets back when they won the World Series, but I think this was just a bigger moment. The guy wins the World Series by hitting a home run, a walk-off. That's the first one that I can remember. I know, I think it's happened since then. Maybe, but that's
89.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't think that was to actually win the World Series. That was to win game 1 of the World Series.
Yeah, game 1. Kirk Gibson. It wasn't a World Series.
Yeah, this one ended the World Series, and I just thought it was absolutely incredible. Still do to this day. Incredible.
So mine, I don't think is it's not a champion. It's a playoff moment. It's when Salvador Perez hit the grounder on the wild card game against the A's. Yeah. Down the third baseline, pulled an outside pitch that should not have been pulled, and put it right back down the line, and gave the Royals their first playoff win in 30 some years. I think maybe it was just 30 on the dot, but that whole run was pretty magical for the Royals. They didn't end up winning the World Series obviously that year, but sweeping their way into the World Series, beating Mike Trout in his only playoff series ever is against the Kansas City Royals. Think about that, when he lost 3 straight games to the Royals. Would have been best of 5. No, it was a best of 3 series then?
Yeah, baseball's been losing out a lot of money with the best of 3 stuff, best of 5 stuff. That was
they've changed do it though, because it would go way too long if they didn't.
That's true.
They've changed the playoff format too, because I think the wild card round is now 2 out of 3. You got to win 2 out of 3. Then I think it's a best of 5 in the divisional, and then I think it's best of 7 championship, best of 7 World Series.
Yeah.
And they don't do that in the NBA. It is best of 7 all the way there. I think the wild card's a little bit. I think the wild card they've done this play-in tournament. And now they're doing, the NBA specifically is doing a midseason tournament with a play-in tournament for the playoffs. They're trying to make so much more money than they already are. But I tell you what, if the Orlando Magic win that midseason tournament, I'll be the first person in line to buy a shirt. I tell you what, I'll be.
It's a nice logo. It's a solid logo for sure. You know what's also crazy about the Athletics game? Weren't they down 7-2? in like the middle of that game, because we were at that game and they got down like 7-2 in like the 5th or 6th, and people just flat out left. Yeah. And for them to come back, tie it, and then Salvi up, and then he hit that right down the third baseline. That was it was funny because we actually got tickets for that, like with the World Series. So a buddy of mine was a Chiefs season ticket holder, and he goes, "Here you go." And it's literally, you get like all like the tickets for the whole playoff series.
Yeah.
And like you can have them because, you know, my wife loves the Royals, thinking, you know, they're not going to make it, whatever. And then they win. And then the next day, when it's the Orioles, maybe, right? Was that the next? I don't know who they.
It was Angels, then Orioles.
Yeah. Watch the Angels, and then they would beat the Angels. The guy was like, "Oh, hey, I need those back." Like, he totally did not believe it. Yeah, no, I gave back, man. He gave it for free. So I'm like, whatever, you can have it back. He's like, "Hey, I was letting you borrow them." Oh, okay, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. That's funny. Big B, you want to take us home?
Yeah. Now this doesn't have anything to do with sports.
Good.
I'm trying to keep on the happy train here, but in honor of tomorrow, since tomorrow is one of the greatest days that God has created, men were born on November 2nd. You know, in 1975, a man was born. So in honor of that, what?
Is that your birthday?
It would be. It would be.
There you go.
Happy birthday tomorrow.
I appreciate it. But in honor of that, as an adult or a kid, what is the best gift on your birthday that you received? I can tell you, I'll start it off to make it easier. I can remember everything. I was 11 years old. I got a BMX freestyle bike that it had everything. That had the mags on it in the front. It had the pads on the front, and it was better than a Huffy. It was a BMX freestyle. It was silver and with the blue pads, and everybody in my neighborhood, it seemed like we all got one at the same time. I remember it, and I got it. My dad put that thing together. That was, I mean, you couldn't tell me anything when I got that. At 11 years old, I was the man. Was the man. Oh, yeah.
Did you have the number plate? Did you get the number plate too, or you just had like the bash guards like on?
Just
like
had the bash guards.
Those were cool. Those were so cool. Tucker, I don't think you know what that is, do you?
I don't.
Bash guards are, you can look at old BMX bikes from the 80s, and you know, you got the handlebar, and then usually the handlebar's like chrome and on the top part, but you could have this little pad thingy.
Yep.
And they have like a symbol on it, and then they have a pad guard on the femur of the bike on the frame.
Correct.
In between the seat and the head post. Yep. And so it looked really cool, man. And what kind of mags? Were they like white mags?
No, they were black, because it was silver, and it was silver, and I had blue pads, but the writing on the blue pads were black. And so the mags, they were black. It was so clean. I was like, you know what? Because everybody else got like, I remember when pink was in, and people would get the pink ones with the white mags. Well, mine, my dad went the other way with it, and he was just like, look, you're going to be different. And I said, absolutely, Dad. I love this thing. And it was so great that I kept it a year and got a Schwinn the next year and never rode it again. Got a Schwinn 10-speed the next year, and I never rode that thing again.
You know, I don't have a favorite like birthday gift. I was grateful that I was a mid-March person. So I would always, in college, it was great because I'd always get money for spring break. So it's like the most perfect time to have a birthday is you get all this money from all your family and you go to spring break with that money, and it's just perfect. But I'd say, you know, favorite Christmas gift, I could remember by far my buddy's or my cousin's buddy dressed up as Santa Claus and delivered my sister and I. Remember in the early 90s, Big B, because Tucker, I know you were not even a thought yet, that they had these scooters you could ride, and they had like a BMX handlebar, but you would stand up, and they were like bigger scooters. They have the big tire, but like the bigger tires. And we got those scooters, and they were like lime green and pink, my sister and I.
Nice.
I was like so geeked. I didn't even know I wanted them, but I got it, and I was like, this scooter's awesome. Like, I am next level with the scooter.
Yeah, I remember those days of the scooter. It seemed like everybody got one too. My mom wouldn't let me because she said, they go too fast. And I'm like, no, they don't. Have you seen me ride a bike?
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, those are awesome.
Video, right? Just cruising.
Those are the best gifts too. That like you don't know that you want it, and then you got it, and you're like, "Holy cow! Like this is like exactly I wanted this, and I didn't know I wanted it." Those are great. I'm a big like experience guy. Like I like to do things. So with my birthday is July 1, so it's always right around the 4th of July. So we always get to do go camping, or when I was a kid, especially, we were going camping a lot. Easy vacation to do. Just go outside and pitch a tent and you hang out there. So this year, actually, my parents bought me the fountain pass for the Royals,
nice.
which was like a standing room only tickets. And listen, the Royals aren't packed out to standing room only very often, so I would always just go and find a seat. It was fun. It was fun to just kind of have to, whenever I felt like going out to a Royals game, I could go out there. I already had a ticket. I could just go pay for parking and then just hang out. A night at the K, didn't have to go stay for the whole game. Didn't feel like I had to get there early because I could just go to the one the next day, type of deal. But that was a really cool experience. I like the feeling of like having season tickets to somewhere just to feel like you're a regular. That's always a cool feeling. But I'm a very experiential person. Like if I buy a gift, I like it to be an experience, or especially Tara and I, when we do things for our anniversary, it's a very experience based. But that's what I like when it comes to gifts like that. Material things, I've ADHD. I've got too much ADHD to really focus on like material things. I play Xbox for like 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this now. But I do still have some of that, and I can remember every Christmas, Nick, as you mentioned, Christmas gifts. Every Christmas, I would get like the 2K when I was like, when I was like from middle school all the way up and through like high school. Like I would always get the newest edition of 2K. And I would love to play it. Obviously, a little late in the 2K season, right? As it comes out, that's when you just get the price knocked down a little bit from like the $60 down to like the 35-ish, and that's how I could always convince my mom or my grandma or whoever's like, hey, look, it's knocking the price down. Give me the new 2K. But that's one of the things that I'll always remember too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
And that's basketball. 2K is basketball, right?
Yeah, the basketball one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was more into like Zelda, like Ocarina of Time. Like I was not a big.
Yeah.
I liked NHL '93 on Sega Genesis. That was like the best
awesome.
One. I think
that was
people
awesome.
still play it. I couldn't tell you like a player, but I could tell you damn near everybody on the Blackhawks roster or the San Jose Sharks roster from 1993. Right, just a fun game.
I remember.
Like you can look it up.
Yeah, I used to play with the Red Wings, and I don't think I knew anybody. Knew Chelios and Steve Yzerman. That's the only people that I knew. But that game was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah,
NHL games are fun. I had an NHL game a few years back, and it's one of those ones. It's just very fun to play. I think 2K now makes the NHL, so I mean, they make a lot of stuff. But yeah, fellas. Good episode this week. Felt good off the hand. Felt good off the fingers there as we roll into week 9 of the NFL season. Chiefs play 8:30 in the morning. I gotta be up for this one. Listen, we had the conversation earlier, maybe even a couple weeks ago, about overseas football. Oh, now looking forward to this 8:30 kickoff Central Time. Chase Daniel was on a podcast earlier. He does the breakdown with us, and he was talking about 6:30 kickoff time. Oh, buddy, that's a tough sell for me. But I'll be up. I'll be watching the Chiefs take on the Dolphins, and quite possibly one of the bigger games of the season so far for the Kansas City Chiefs. So for Nick Leckey and Big B, Brien Hanely, I'm Tucker Franklin. We'll be back with you next week. Join us live Wednesday at 9 p.m. Every single Wednesday we'll be live with you. Or just listen to us after the fact if you're doing that right now too. We appreciate you as well. So I'm Tucker Franklin. Thank you to our friends at Five Farms Irish Cream Liqueur for sponsoring today's show. We'll talk to you next time.